Hey there, internets. So, Saturday night rant time. If you didn't see the short I did earlier, boycott's still ongoing. So we want AB InBev to actually apologize and end the VP in charge of that made the decision to hire that individual to be unemployed, not just taking a leave of absence. But there's other things to talk about. So, Washington State's legislature now has sitting on Governor Inslee's desk an assault weapons ban. And I made a video saying, if you didn't vote for Culp, either you didn't vote or you voted for Inslee, and you don't like that ban, you have yourself to blame. You need to think about that next time. And somebody commented, and then they apparently deleted their comment after I responded. I said it was kind of inspiring me. I thanked them for the comment, I always do. And they said something to the effect of, quit the infighting, don't you realize we have a economic collapse coming? And I think they kind of implied, I'm kind of paraphrasing here, that maybe other things have to be discussed. You hear people talk about what's more important, social, culture war issues or economic issues. Now, I vote in no particular order on taxes, spending. I want less spending, less taxes. The gun issue, which I'm just this side of an absolutist, which is to say accountability doesn't bother me. Bans do. And judicial appointments. I want a Supreme Court packed with clones of Clarence Thomas. I just wish we could clone that man. He's the greatest Supreme Court justice ever. And I was commenting on another channel several months ago, and someone said, the problem with economic conservatives is they always betray us. And this was a social conservative. Well, you know what? I felt like, and I said this, I see the social conservatives betraying the economic conservatives or the small L libertarians. Got news for you. You got to have both. When it comes to what caused the end of the Roman Empire, people say, oh, they lost their culture, their values, that sort of thing. And others, people say it became degenerate. Others say it was because central planning on their economy. They tried to have price controls. They tried to have high taxes. They debased the currency. Does all that sound familiar, guys? Ultimately, it's both. And to some extent, they're probably very much linked. So it is both. And so all of you in the social conservatives, now understand, I will talk about over time. If you watch this channel, I will talk about social issues. I will talk about economic issues, even though those are the ones I'm more passionate about. Right now, people are talking social issues. That's why we're talking about all this weird gender cult ideology going on. So both need to be discussed. But for those of you that are social conservatives, why is Obamacare still in place? Because you guys left it. Why didn't we have a balanced budget during the Trump administration? In part because of you guys. And of course, you get unified government with Republicans and they get worse than Democrats in a lot of ways. And at the same time, sometimes you got people that are completely ignore those cultural issues, and pretty soon you wonder why society went to crap, and now we got people transing kids. So they both got to be addressed. But ultimately, it's all the consequences of how you vote. Hard thing to understand. And that was my point about the short that I did about the assault weapons ban. How many people, I saw people saying, well, I couldn't vote for Culp because of when he was a police officer, he and another officer investigated a rape, ultimately decided not to recommend charges. And someone brought that up and that hurt him during the campaign. Well, I'm sorry, but they made a decision as police officers. Would that have affected how he was as governor? Probably not. But you let that get in the way. And so now you have an assault weapons ban that you don't like. You have higher taxes that you don't like. You have a bill that will probably be signed into law allowing the state to hide runaways if they say they're looking for an abortion or a sex change. Because you let perfect be the enemy of good. And on the right, we have this problem. I'm not going to vote for that guy. And I couldn't be never Trump for that reason. I don't like Trump. Right now, I'm really high on wanting DeSantis. The founding fathers, because of the Electoral College, allowed me to take a coward's way out and say I didn't vote for a Democrat. But who else I might have voted for, I'll let you decide. The Trump people, hardcore Trump people, think I voted third party. The hardcore the never Trumpers think I voted for Trump. You guys can speculate all you want. But ultimately, and there's been a couple other elections where I will keep it I can't decide to keep it private, where it was a friend versus a friend, and the two friends each think I voted for the other guy. Okay? But ultimately, voting is a strategic decision. Especially if you're in a blue state like Washington. You can't sit there and say, I'm not going to vote for that guy for some minor reason when he's clearly better than the Democrat. You can't. You got to take your wins when you can get them. You can't sit there and say, I want a clone of Ron DeSantis only, or I'm not voting for him. I want a perfect candidate, or I'm not voting for him. You're not going to get it. Someone at some point is going to have to make that decision of, do I vote for the guy that's going to raise my taxes, trans my kid, take my guns, or am I going to vote for the other guy? And this goes further down. All of us in the conservative movement have seen in Washington, Seattle, but also we've seen San Francisco. We've seen the videos of the human waste on the streets. I saw a video somewhere last night of showing a Target, and everything was locked up. You couldn't get to it. Walmart shut down its stores in Portland, and when I was working on some stuff down there, family related, I'd go to that Walmart. One of them, it's gone. REI is shutting down in Portland. I was talking to somebody last night, and they were talking about how a relative of theirs was helping run the Chaz, if you remember the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, was actually helping going around helping the guy that gives them weapons. And that person will remain unnamed. I was talking to for their privacy. Or you see Chicago, and I'm going to touch on one story in particular because I'm going to include the link once this video uploads to a GoFundMe for the family of a little boy that was murdered. I know YouTube doesn't like that M word, but the child lost his life because of these kind of policies. I'm watching videos, and I'm actually kind of enjoying the videos by a real social justice warrior, and I think he's a conservative. I think. I've only watched about 3 videos, but he's talking about how Chicago just had all of their Walmarts shut down that were never profitable. And yet Chicago last week had this teenage takeover for 3 days of rioting. And the kids are just destroying stuff. It's like they want to watch the world burn. You see them, surround a car, jump up on it, and start jumping up and down on it. You see the windows breaking and the roof buckling. Why? Because you let this happen, Chicago. LA, you let this happen. San Francisco, Seattle, Portland, you let this happen because of how you vote. Their new mayor in Chicago is saying, oh, don't demonize these kids. They're just frustrated. No, they're rioting and they want to watch the world burn because of the policies you advocate for. I've seen some young kids that have come through, and it's like they were never taught to mind an adult. When I teach martial arts, they'd come in, they were already not taught to mind an adult. So they weren't taught to mind, so they were the worst kids I ever had. Usually they didn't last because the parents either weren't committed to keeping them in, or there was other issues in the family. I mean, I literally had a mom tell me, beat them into submission. I'm like, I'm not going to beat your kid. But one of these kids, when I had a substitute teaching for me when I was on vacation, the kid's like, you're not the boss of me. And another black belt's like, yes, she is. Some of these, but this goes to the adult level. If you do not punish shoplifters, I'm sorry, but every criminal is not Aladdin. They're not stealing food. You don't eat a TV. You do not eat expensive shoes. You're not feeding yourself when you're just breaking windows to break windows. That is not even remotely sane. And you're not feeding yourself when you steal a car, drive like a maniac, hit another car, and this little boy sitting in the car, and I'll bring up this article here in a moment and read it to you, and I'll include a link to at least one of the news stations that covered it. The little 6-month-old boy dies. Now, supposedly they might upgrade the charges. I'm not holding out a lot of hope because the DA there is a George Soros-backed prosecutor. But Chicago, you vote these people in, and then you wonder why Walmart can't be profitable. Change how you vote. And I do mean stop voting for just a contest of who's more liberal and keep going more to the left. When you have a conservative run, vote for them. You might be surprised. You know, if you just do, and for people that say just crime caused poverty or poverty caused crime, I'm sure it's some of both. But ultimately, if you graduate high school, I mean, what was the foundation? There's a liberal think. It's actually a liberal think tank, but they keep getting called right wing. But I can't think of their name off the top of my head because I don't script Saturday nights usually. Brookings Institute. They did a study. Said if you graduate high school, if you don't have kids before you're married, you delay marriage till you're 21, you work full time, chances are you will move out of poverty over the course of your lifetime. Here's some other things that would help. Don't commit criminal activity. And it's not hard. Don't murder, which also extends to, if you remember, when I was in confirmation and going through a Lutheran church, had to learn this thing that Martin Luther created. What does this mean? Don't murder also means don't assault, don't rape, don't rob, right? Because that also ties into don't steal. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not commit adultery. But if you don't attempt to harm anybody and you don't steal anything, you don't commit vandalism, and being the child of a substance abuser, my mom was an alcoholic, you don't abuse substances, and I do occasionally have a beer. I had one for the short I did earlier tonight. Chances are you're not going to end up in poverty if you just do those very basic things. It's not hard. It's not rocket science to stay out of trouble. All right? And then you just can then what's the worst you get? A traffic ticket? I mean, a DUI can set you back a lot. It can set you back several thousand, and I don't have much sympathy because it's avoidable. But if you do those basic things, you're not going to get in trouble with the cops as a rule. Regardless of your skin color. They got better things to do. Don't hang out with people that do that stuff. If your buddy is smoking dope all the time, tell him, no, you're not riding with me. I don't want my car smelling like marijuana and giving a cop an excuse. No, you're not riding with me if you're carrying an illegal gun. Because if you don't have a concealed weapons permit, you're not legal. In 23 states now. We're down to 23 that require a permit. Very simple. Think about who you associate with. But ultimately, if you are voting for people that have soft on crime policies, don't be shocked because they don't go after thieves, that a business says, hey, I can't stay in business. I remember a young man, when I was involved with Young Republicans, he went away to film school, turned into a leftist, and he couldn't understand how He thought Mitt Romney was this horrible guy because he took over businesses and a lot of people got laid off. And it's like, dude, he's taking an unprofitable business, turning it around, and then reselling it for a profit. Look at all the people that still have a job because that business is still in business. He seemed to think that Mitt Romney should just be, paying out money to keep all these other people employed, and whether the business makes money or not. That's not how businesses work. So to all these people in places like Chicago and Portland where your Walmarts are closing, and you don't want to have food deserts, you want to be able to, this minister was on one of these videos saying we should be able to work and recreate, play and eat or go and shop all in our neighborhood. Open up the businesses. Go open up a grocery store and try and stay in business with all the crime. And then maybe when you can't get somebody, you find out that, you can't stay in business because everyone's stealing what would be your profit. Maybe you'll insist on doing something about the thieves. For all of you that are the victims of these crimes, and I totally sympathize with you if you are voting for the conservative. I understand why you move out. If you're a victim of this stuff and you think it's just too horrible, but you keep voting for leftists, please stay there and wallow in the situation you have made. You need people, if they vote for things they don't like, they need to feel the consequences. Washington's governor, Harry Inslee, sent a letter to Idaho's governor, I can't remember his name, saying, please don't pass this law that says you can't take a minor across state lines without their parents' permission to get an abortion. Why, something that would be common sense. Parents should have to have control of this situation. And he writes back, why would anyone want to go to your state? You've got rising crime, homeless encampments, and high taxes. If you live in Idaho, you can easily just move to a state that allows abortion up to the moment of birth, like Washington does. Doesn't stop you from moving there. But if you're going to move from Washington to Idaho to avoid Washington's problems, or from California to Texas to avoid Texas's problems, change how you vote. Vote the way that people do where you're going, because you're just going to make the situation worse. But on to this little boy. I'm going to include the GoFundMe. I hate GoFundMe, but someone's trying to do something good for them. I can't afford right now to put any money toward this, but I can at least share the link. From WGN 9 in Chicago, 2 teenagers are only facing misdemeanor charges after a crash of a stolen car resulted in the death of a 6-month-old infant. In an update Wednesday, Chicago police said 2 male juveniles ages 17 and 14 each face 1 misdemeanor count of criminal trespassing. Misdemeanor count of criminal trespassing. Think about that. Though charges could be upgraded pending the department's investigation. They better be. There better be a murder charge on this. Police said the crash happened around 5 p.m. on Sunday at the 4400 block of West Washington. A stolen Hyundai was traveling westbound on Washington when it struck a pickup truck. And my worn-out computer is not wanting to scroll. Long story short, this little boy that was one of the passengers, there's 4 passengers in the pickup truck, he did not make it. He suffered for 3 days. Because these guys decided to take a joyride. Why? Because they probably thought they could get away with it. Let's steal a car and drive like a maniac. And people want to say, oh, well, they're just children. They're just victims too. Look at the poverty. We got a program on the TV saying, they're talking about how, oh, well, this is there it finally scrolled. Let's go. Oh, that just flipped to the GoFundMe. That's all. The other page isn't scrolling. Oh, there it goes. According to police, there were multiple hospitalizations in the crash, including a 6-month-old boy who died from his injuries. His name was Christian Uvidia. And apparently, people sharing it have gotten them over their goal, but I'm still going to share the link because there's probably some expenses they don't expect. And there's I think I have one here from WSAZ News Channel 3 talking the same thing. I'll share one of those, and I should be able to find the link to the GoFundMe in one. Or I got the link to the GoFundMe. But these kids thought they could get away with this. I saw a video where Cook County guy stole, carjacked a car in Cook County, got chased to the next county where they finally arrested him. His lawyer was trying to get him sent back to Cook County for arraignment, and they're like, nope. And the prosecutor in this next county was like, not a chance. This guy's going away for 20, because the Cook County prosecutor would let him off easy. So all of you living in places of Cook County, maybe you need to stop voting for the soft on crime people. Stop voting based on race. Stop voting for the furthest left people. Because this little boy is what happened to him is the kind of result that you get. Think about really, really hard. Is this what you want? Because this is what your soft on crime policies mean. You want to complain about food deserts? You created them. You want to complain about not having jobs in your inner cities? No business can locate there to give you jobs because you make it impossible to make a profit. Between taxes and the crime, and you keep voting for more of it. So, to all of you who live in these places, please stay there and fix your problems. And start to fix them, start looking at something different than the way you've been voting. But I'll share the link. It looks like they're now up to $32,000 of the $25,000 goal. But of course, GoFundMe takes a chunk. And any of the sites going to, but after what they did with the Canadian truckers last year, I would only give money through GoFundMe if I had to. When I had a friend needing money, I actually tracked him down and physically gave it to him, rather than give it through GoFundMe. So, anyway, that's the Saturday Night Rant. If you vote for something, you deserve what you get if you voted for it. Long story short. And think long and hard about what those consequences are. Till then, like, share, subscribe. I am up to 35 subscribers, so welcome and thank you to all the new subscribers. Leave a comment which helps fuel the algorithm. Until then, you all take care.